Hello everyone, today I would like to talk about our Grafnoct 150mm f1.6, the new 4x5 lens program. Before we talk about this lens, let's talk about the question, why do we need a f1.6 lens today? The first reason, very obviously, if you need to shoot some very low ISO stuffs. For example, the clothing type, or you can call it the wet plate. It's a very vintage way of doing photography, but like very low ISO. So you need tons of light. Another one is photo paper reversal process. So basically you took a photo paper which designed for enlarging, not for shooting picture with it, but you do it and you reverse process it and you got a positive image of it. It's another reason for black and white version. In that case, if you shoot low ISO for portrait, you might need a very strong flashlight. So this kind of flash can cost you really a lot. So having a fast lens instead of a strong flash can actually save your money and also save your eyes. Another reason you might like to do some nice scene photography, having a fast lens will keep your shutter speed high and you can avoid to have some reciprocity failure problems. Or you might like to have some very extreme bokeh or depth of field. 150 f1.6 lens will be equivalent to a 42mm f0.45 on 35mm cameras. So here's two pictures of the Grafnoct lens at f1.6 and f5.6. So you can see that comparing to regular large format lens, having f1.6 is much more bokeh and very dreamy look. And in general, having a larger aperture will give you some new possibilities. So what's special about the Grafnoct lens? Why should you choose that instead of the other ones? Firstly, it was designed based on the modern technology. So you can have the new optical design softwares like ZMax. So back in the days, the optical design was just a whole bunch of people doing calculations manually. The new technology will make the optical design way more easier and give you the better result. Also, we have the modern optical glasses. For example, we're using the Chengdu Guangming optical glass. Back in the days, like before the 1960s, there's no lithium glass at that time. So for now, we have the wider range to choose. Most importantly, we actually have a price advantage. So the vintage lens can easily cost you a fortune. For example, the door mirror can go like £19,500, which is very crazy. And we are selling way cheaper than that. So let's compare about the optical qualities of these lenses. We have the Aero Acta from the Kodak, Astro Berlin, and Dormir Super 6. So let's have a quick look first. On the first row, we have three lenses. Their MTF curve is just not very good. And comparing at the lower line, we can see that we do have some proper image qualities from it. Firstly, Kodak Aero Acta 178mm f2.5. So this is a very common lens for large format photographers. Like everyone probably know it and have one. Design was patented in 1944. They have 7 pieces of glass in 4 groups. Overall, they have some nice image qualities and very consistent across the frame. So you can see the spot diagram. So the Acta lens was well known as the Burnett combo. So David Burnett is a journalist who still shoots 4x5 for the news, which makes him very special. So he has this lens on a speed Graflex camera, but although speed Graflex camera has a cloud rangefinder on it, and you can tune the rangefinder to any lens, but for this 178mm, it's not very good. So you can see that David Burnett actually used a viewfinder for the ground glass to focus. Well, the reason is that the cloud rangefinder is designed for the 127 to 165. Above that point, it's kind of painful to really fine-tuning the rangefinder and get a good focusing. If we use a 150mm as they listed, it's a... Okay, let's see about the sub f2. So the very first one, the Astro Berlin 150 f1.8. So this is a very old design, 100 years ago, patented in 1927. Basically, it's an improved quick lens, but in 4 pieces. The image quality is not very good. It has a lot of astigmatism. So you can see that the spot will turn into a bar shape. This will give you some radial scattering looking on the frame. And for such a lens, still kind of expensive, around $2,000 on eBay. Well, the Dornier Super 6 6-inch f1.9. 6-inch is about 152mm. So it's a design pattern in 1956, which is the latest one here. It has 6 pieces of glass and 4 groups. Although they use 6 pieces, it's only 2 kind of optical materials listed here. So you can see the MTF curve is really bad, not sharp. And it also has this kind of astigmatism here. So the spot diagram is also in a bar shaped and not very contrasty. You will spend like over $7,500 and even higher. So this one is just the cheapest I can find online. Very, very crazy, I would say. Okay, so for our lens, the Grafnoct, you can see that the MTF curve is much better than the previous ones. It has 6 pieces of lens also in a double Gaussian shape. The structure is very similar to the Nikon 50 f1.8, the AIS version. This design will give you some very nice optical qualities. And the spot diagram, you can see that the light are all very well converged to a spot. So it will have a much better contrast and sharpness. For the Kickstarter price, we're only around $1,300, which is way cheaper than the previous ones. Okay, so assume you want to buy one. What cameras can you fit to? As the name tells, the Grafnoct for a Graflex camera. So there's 2 versions of Graflex speed cameras. One is called the anniversary version, and one is called the pacemaker. They both can reach 1,000th of a second shutter speed, which is very useful for this kind of fast lens. To fit onto this camera, you need a lens board for it. These 2 cameras have different lens boards. So the left one, the anniversary, you can see that it's kind of a very dark camera. It has 4-inch lens board, so it's 101mm in a square. And the right one, the pacemaker, you can see there is a whole bunch of stainless steel parts, very shiny. It has 19.4 x 19.3mm lens board. And we will make both of them, and you can choose on the Kickstarter page what kind of lens board you need. Another choice is the Scenario DV shutter. So if you like to shoot in a studio and with some flash, this is the choice. So it's a leaf shutter, only goes to 1/60th of a second, but have flash sync output. We will make the lens board for it, but also if you for some reason need a link hop lens board, we'll also make it for you. In general, for such a fast lens, you might need a ND filter to shoot it on the daytime if you like to have it wide open. So we will make some ND64 filter for it. You can buy it for a kit. So if you want to buy it, you can search Grafnoct on Kickstarter.com. We provide you options for some very fine and very bright ground glass for the camera and a whole bunch of different lens boards to fit the Kickstarter will end in February 22nd. And at that time, we hope we can have 10 orders for the lens at least. Otherwise, we will cancel the project. So if everything goes right, the lens will come out after April this year. And at that time, we will just distribute these lenses to the worldwide. So finally, let's talk about who we are and why you should trust us. So for me, I'm Yinan, who do the optical design for this lens. Currently, I'm a PhD student in optical engineering, studying in University of Glasgow. My PhD project is about wide-angle retinal imaging. Personally, I started shooting large format since 2019. The Grafnoct project starts in July 2025. Another one here is Rayford. He do the mechanical part design for this Grafnoct lens. You might heard about him as the people who replicate the Gord Hypergun 75mm ultra-wide lens. He also has a whole bunch of other projects like the Pentax 165mm f2.8 lens, adapted to the number 3 shutter kit. This is his printable page. He published a whole bunch of open source parts for large format photography, and he's very well known in China's analog community. And finally, the 11 film. This is a workshop who will be responsible for the marketing, assembly, and distributing for the Grafnoct lens. So what they did one is Eco 8x10 camera, and also some panorama film back for Bronica, Mamiya, and Hasselblad. Here's a link for their web store. When we have the lens came out, the lens will also appear on this store and sell by them. This is all for this video. I hope you like this lens. Welcome to support us on Kickstarter, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.